Well, thank you all. My name is George Hodge, and I have the honor of serving as the board chair of Mosaic Miami. Welcome, and thank you all for being here. Tonight's a special night for us. It's our first official gathering of the Silver Medallion's Pillar Circle. We're grateful to those of you who are here as founding members, and we hope others will be inspired to join us. I want to thank Mitch Kaplan and the Books and Books team for hosting us this evening. A 2018 Silver Medallion honoree. Mitch has long been an anchor of culture and conversations in this city. And I want to recognize my fellow board members who are here tonight, Wally Salhuddin, Sherry Tropin, and Rabbi Judah Siegel, who's the chair of our clergy dialogue and ex officio member of our board. You know, at Mosaic Miami, we're working harder than ever, leading more community conversations than ever before. In a time of division, we're building bridges and creating spaces for constructive conversations. Just a real quick overview. In the last few weeks, we took emerging leaders to Chapman Partnership to see for themselves the housing needs in our community. We gathered an interfaith group to spend the day at a Habitat for Humanity build in South Dade. Judith and I got on ladders, even though our spouses told us not to. We convened an interfaith dinner between Mosaic board members and fellows from the AJC Shepherd Broad Fellowship, and we collaborated with the Coral Gables Art Cinema here as part of our Faith and Film series. Going forward, we hope you'll join us. In 2 weeks, we will have our We Are United March from the Freedom Tower to the Underline, and we'll gather at our humanitarian dinner on May 17th. Where we'll continue to honor leaders like you who are building bridges in this region. And we're deep in planning for our Metrotown Youth Camp in June and an exciting podcast series we're going to launch in the next couple of months. You know, this is what the Pillar Circle is about. None of our work would be possible without the support, guidance, and encouragement of the people in this room. Tonight's about looking back at the origins of the book fair, but also about building our future. And with that, I'd like to invite someone who embodies that spirit. Tony Ardiz is a 2013 Silver Medallion honoree, a founding member of the Pillar Circle, and an incredible asset to our community. Tony, you want to say a few words? Thank
you. Thank you, George. So good evening. No, just quickly, I wanted to touch upon our Silver Medallion Pillar Circle. Something that we started this year, and it's kind of a pathway to connectivity between Mosaic Miami and fellow Silver Medallion honorees from the past. And what's this circle about? It's a leadership circle to advance connection and community impact for Mosaic. The advance Mosaic's mission, turn recognition into emerging ongoing impact. Also connect leaders across generations and learn from living experiences. The annual membership for this, it's $5,000. And you know, the money goes a long way for Mosaic Miami. The benefits in becoming a member of this, the Pillar Society is you have recognition at key events and publications. Access to curated programs and several VIP experiences. And it's a great opportunity also to mentor and engage with emerging leaders around town. The impact it keeps all the honorees connected as a living community. It integrates leaders into Mosaic's ongoing work. Builds relationships and expands Mosaic's reach throughout the network. So you know, tonight I'd like to just reach out and ask if you consider joining. We'd love to have you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tony. We appreciate that. And now I want to call up somebody who needs absolutely no introduction because he knows everybody in Miami, our brilliant executive director, Matt Anderson.
Thank you so much, George, and thank you, friends, for joining us tonight. I echo a lot of the sentiment that tonight's really special because this is our first ever Mosaic Miami Silver Medallion Pillar Circle gathering. And at Mosaic Miami, we talk a lot about the importance of building a community where everyone feels connected. And another thing that we often say is that, we can't wait for bad things to happen to think that it's a good time to start to build relationships. Being that connected city just doesn't happen, overnight and out of thin air. And Miami continues to be a city that's built by leaders just like you that are able to sometimes think of things that others can't or see possible and take risks that can make those things possible. Tonight, it's about two of those people, two of my heroes. And there would be no book fair without Dr. Eduardo Padrón or Mitchell Kaplan. And who knows what our city would look like if they hadn't come together. In the early 1980s, Miami was still trying to figure out who we wanted to be. And there were real questions about whether our community could support a book fair, or if people would show up, or if Miami could be a cultural hub. And looking forward, we all know the answer to that. And thank God that Mitchell and Eduardo didn't wait for those questions to be answered. They built it anyway. They brought together a college, Miami-Dade College, which is now the largest community college by enrollment thanks to Dr. Padrón's leadership, and a real bastion for hope where so many of us in Miami got our start. And we also brought together Books and Books.
He's a busy guy.
Nice. No worries.
But we need to give a big round of applause.
Yes. And we've also brought together Books and Books, our community's nucleus for culture, community, and justice. We have an institutional leader and an independent cultural voice. And they created something that has shaped Miami over the last 4 decades. And we now have the largest book fair in the U.S. here in Miami.
Oh, wow.
Their partnership is one of the clearest examples of the power of what happens when two silver medallions collaborate and collide. This is what the essence of tonight is all about. Tonight, we're reflecting on what it takes to build something that's special and lasts, and what we have to do to keep carrying it forward. So with that said, it's my honor to introduce you all to Dr. Eduardo Padrón and Mitchell Kaplan. I'm also really excited because I'm pretty sure this is the first time this subject matter has been videotaped. So we're at the right place tonight. So gentlemen, you ready to get started?
Ready. All set.
So let's start with the moment before the moment and rewind back to the 1980s. Miami was a totally different place. And I'm sure you got a lot of pushback and people thought you were a little crazy for what you're trying to accomplish. But I want to know, starting with Dr. Padrón, what did people get wrong about this city and what made you keep going?
Well, first of all, I don't know why I always manage to get the microphone with the accent. but I don't mind. I love it. Anyway, I think like most things in life, you have believers and people who have difficulty seeing beyond their nose. And back in the 80s, I came to this country at 16 in 1961. And I was in shock when I arrived here because I always heard about the United States and all of these things, and Miami had nothing of the things that I was expecting. This was a moribund resort town, very quiet, and frankly, not much was happening. And you think public transportation today is not what it should be, back at that, or in those days it was much worse. But I learned to love this city very, very soon after my arrival. First of all, because I was so grateful for the people who opened their arms and welcomed me to Miami. And I will never forget that. And I have had opportunities to move in different places all over the world, and have always rejected the idea because I am fully in love with the city. I believe in the potential of this city and what it can be. And that's the way we both felt back in 1983, to be exact, when I first met Mitchell. And I'll very quickly tell the story. I'm sitting on my desk, and my secretary says, Juanita Johnson wants to talk to you. Juanita Johnson was an African-American librarian who worked at the library at the college, but she also happened to be the chair of the advisory committee to the Library of Miami. And she came and I said, Juanita, how are you doing? And she says, I'm here because I like to know the people at the public library would like to borrow tables to do a book sale. And I said, do a book sale? And where is that going to be? She said, no, in front of the library. Now, you would recall, in 1983, the public library was in Bayfront Park. You know where the Naguchi Fountain is at the end of Flagler? You cross the street and that's the Naguchi Fountain. Okay, that's where the public library was. And they wanted to do a book sale there. It just happened that I had been working with Ralph Sanchez, who started the Miami Grand Prix that same year. And I had been working with the people at the film festival, which at that time was not called the film festival, but it was here in Coral Gables at the Cinematheque, and they wanted to start a festival. And I was working with them on that. And I did my little research, and there was not a tradition of book fairs in the United States. And I said, how come the country that has and produces the most books and have the most readers do not have a celebration of books? And that stayed in my mind. At that time I was desperate. I had just started, I started in 1970 at the college. And I was desperate to do things to bring people downtown. Because I always felt that no city can accomplish greatness without a vibrant downtown. And so I was trying to get all kinds of things done, and we had people like Ruth Greenfield, who some of you knew, who started the Lively Art series, and you had people like Marilyn Gottlieb Roberts, who was an artist, who did a parade in downtown to celebrate and welcome the vultures who would stand on top of the courthouse. And we did all kinds of crazy things. But then, when Juanita came and told me that, I said, you know what? Why don't you invite this group? I will invite them for breakfast, and we can talk about something else than just selling books at the bookstore. So here comes Mitchell, here comes Greg, who owned a bookstore in South Miami. Here comes Raquel, who owned a bookstore in downtown Miami. And came mostly small business owners, Aaron, remember? And then Margarita Cano, who was like a librarian, basically, at the main library. And I was impressed with this, Willie Gore. I was impressed with this group of people who were not the big, leaders of industry or business, but common citizens who had a common interest. And we talk about the possibility, why not do a book fair? And I said, if you commit to help organize it, I will find the money. And then after I said that, I said, oh my God. and then, the people got so enthusiastic. I saw so much energy in that room. And it was so sincere, so genuine. And we started, planning. And most people who we talked to thought we were crazy. They thought that this will never happen. People will not come downtown to see books or authors because downtown was a scary place. Remember, the riots had taken place. We had all kind of issues. Mariel boat lift took place. All kind of things. But downtown was, if you think homelessness is a problem today, it was much worse then. And even prostitution was very open in the streets of downtown Miami. After 4:30 in the afternoon, you couldn't find a soul in downtown Miami. Most of the people that who worked downtown, most of the business had moved out of Miami. And downtown was in desolation, was not a place to be. So there is a picture of me in the front page of the Miami Herald, wearing a blazer and some khaki pants and a tie, with my hands like this, and the title of the picture was, "We are open, where are the students?" Because students did not want to come downtown to go to the college. So that was the thing. So people, of course, felt that book fair would not go anywhere. This is the last thing I will say about this, but I went to see, the first person I went to see was Jim Batten, who was the chairman of Night Reader, which at that time was based in Miami. And he was the nicest person you'll ever meet. And I went to see him, sat down with him, and he let me talk for about 10 minutes about this great thing we're gonna do, and we're gonna bring authors, and we're gonna bring booksellers. And at the end, he sits back and laughs, and I said, "You are crazy. If you think you're gonna have people come downtown Miami about this, it's not gonna happen." And I said, "Listen, you have deflated me because you are a man about newspapers, you are a man about reading, you are a man, and you're telling me that I'm gonna prove you wrong. No matter what the cost is, I'm gonna prove you wrong." I said, "Well, Eduardo, I'm gonna give you a check for $10,000 just to help you because you're my friend, but this is not gonna happen." Anyway, we went back, we worked hard. Mitchell and Craig became the chairman of the board. We distributed the work among people, and we started working. And in 1984, the first book fair took place in November, the same month. We haven't changed, the same month. We said, well, if we get a couple thousand people, that's gonna be great success, because that's better than now, 1,000 people. We had, 25,000 people
At least, yeah.
came in, and the celebration was unbelievable. And I want you to take from here, because the people we brought and how things started progressing, and then I'll come back and share a few things.
Real quick. I just want to highlight a couple of things. So, Dr. Padrón, you're incredible at connecting dots. And you mentioned some really important people that I think we should highlight. Jim Batten, Ruth Greenfield, and Ralph Sanchez, all silver medallions. And we talk about Lador Vador from generations to generations. I was really happy that you mentioned Ralph Sanchez, as we're going to be honoring his daughter, Patty, with the silver medallion this year, which is a big deal.
That's a great thing.
And the other thing I wanted to mention was 1984 was also a big deal because that was the year you received your silver medallion.
Well, I have forgotten about that. but yeah, it was really challenging, no question about that, because at that time we had 3 downtowns. Downtown was Omni, which they had just finished building the Omni, and then you have a couple of buildings on Brickell. So you have Brickell. Today is one thing. Downtown goes from all the way from Brickell all the way to the beyond the Omni area, what we used to call Omni. It has a different name now. But and it's a totally different thing. The downtown today, it still has a long way to go, but it's a place that we can celebrate, because the one thing that I asked the members of the board for the book fair was, I don't want this to be the city ballet, I don't want this to be the opera, I don't want this to be the symphony, which I love them and I attend them as much as I can. But I wanted to really represent the city. I want the diversity of the city to feel ownership on the book fair. I want this to be something that everyone can enjoy, regardless of color, religion, you name it. And to this day, that's the one thing we celebrate the most. The fact that it's so diverse, that people from over town, from Liberty City, can come and find the authors that they love and respect, that people can come from Little Havana and Hialeah and South Miami and enjoy the authors. That you have Jewish authors and you have people representing all genders and all, all the things that represent Miami and make Miami great. And that is something that, if you ask me what's the best thing about the book fair, I think it's the most democratic, cultural thing that we do in the city.
I guess you can see why, if you know me at all, why I would follow this man anywhere, right? That is the attitude which I encountered the very first time I met him in my mid-20s, is when Eduardo and I met. My story is just a little different, I guess. I grew up in Miami. I grew up in Miami Beach, actually. And when Eduardo talks about Miami being moribund, there was nothing more moribund than growing up as a baby boomer in the 60s and 70s in Miami, where so much was happening everywhere else in the world. So I left and I went to college out west, and I flirted with a couple of other things, went to law school for a little while. And I came back to Miami and to open a bookstore, and I was amazed at the opportunity here. This was in 1979. I was teaching high school at Southridge High School when Marielle happened. Is that where you went? Oh my. Where could have been your teacher at some point. Where Marielle happened in 1980. I had students from Marielle. You know, the McDuffie riots. One of my students was Tananarive Dew, whose father, was on the street trying to quell things. And at the same time, it was the beginning of the cocaine trade. I remember I lived in a townhouse out south, and I remember coming back from school one day, and this guy was looking for something in the bushes. And I was wondering what he was looking at until he lifted up his leg, and there was an empty holster there. He was some guy looking for his gun in the bushes where I lived. I had no idea what he was doing. Who knows? I didn't ask after that. But Miami was a really weird place in 1980 when I came back. And I decided to open Books and Books. We opened it up in 1982, so it wasn't that far, before I got the call from Eduardo. But in 1982, I understood that Miami was being underestimated left and right, because I opened the bookshop and I saw what people were reading. And they were reading books as sophisticated as anywhere else. I had such faith in what the literary community was like here. And like Eduardo, the thing that kept me here in the early 80s was the diversity of Miami. I saw, it's built into our DNA that Miami was as diverse as anywhere else, anywhere. And so I got that call from the librarians. I got the call too, who said, we want to do a little book sale outside of our building. And I was a little hesitant about it. I had done a little something in Coral Gables called the Coral Gables Festival of Books and Writers. I had been in New York, and there was this thing called New York is Book Country. They didn't have authors, but they would just put tables out on Fifth Avenue. And I, like Eduardo, thought, a book fair would do so much to help bring a sense of cohesion to Miami. So I was a little skeptical about the little tables in the park, but when I met Eduardo, everything melted away. And I said, Mike, it was like a Mickey Rooney movie. Let's put on a book fair. Because I knew, and Eduardo, I have very few mentors in my life. One's my dad, and another one is this man right here. He has taught me so much about so many things just by watching him and watching how he operates in the world. And what he did to give guidance to this ragamuffin group to try to bring this book fair into international prominence. He almost willed it to happen. And I can't imagine where we would have been without it. Not to mention where we'd be as a city without Eduardo's leadership. So in the very early days, I was in charge of doing the author events. Go figure, right? So that was my role. My role was to get authors here, develop programming and all of that. And I knew that we wanted to have the most first-rate program that we possibly could. And it was very hard because the attitude about Miami, you can imagine these, quote, very sophisticated New York publishers was that nothing serious happened in Miami. I would call a publisher up, I go, we want an author to come. And they would go, well, I have this new non-prescription drug book out. We'd be happy to see. Right, I said, no, that's not what we want. So in the very first year, we hit for the fences. And Eduardo, I don't know if you remember, but we had a member of our board who unfortunately isn't, I think his name was Carlos, and I can't remember his last name, but he was Argentinian, if you remember.
Yes.
And in the very first year, we got a confirmation from Borges that Borges would be coming. And then at the very last minute, he got ill or something, and he couldn't make it. But we did have James Baldwin in our first year at the book fair. We had James Baldwin.
Out of persistence.
Out of complete persistence.
Complete persistence. I don't know how many phone calls you had to make.
Yeah, it was not easy to get him to come. He was living in Paris at the time, and he didn't have the reputation he has. I mean, he was always James Baldwin, but today he's really James Baldwin. Back then he was going through a little bit of a trough in terms of public perception of him. But he came and did an amazing panel that we had with Alberto Padilla. Do you remember? It was a panel on exile. This was very early. We did some of the really early panels. We had one of the first panels, I think, in the country on AIDS. If you remember, we had these three authors who had written about AIDS back in the mid-'80s, when it was just beginning to kind of get into people's consciousness. But our brief was to always make sure that the book fair was the biggest tent you could possibly put up and allow the entire community to come into it. That's what we wanted. So our programming reflected that. We had programs in Spanish, we had programs in Creole, we had Caribbean Writers Program, we had so many different kinds of programs. We had a school program in which, that was one thing. Eduardo and I would always stand on Friday, watch the school kids come, and it was like the most amazing thing to watch those kids come. And in fact, Eduardo insisted beautifully that we have a parade. Do you remember the parades that we would have on those very first days? And to watch tens of thousands of kids and people come to downtown for books. It was a very simple thing, even though it wasn't a digital time, it was just books. They came to hear authors. They came to hear people. Stories I tell, are many, many, many. But we had authors before they were known, like Toni Morrison we had for her second book, and not too many people knew her. We had Susan Sontag, this great writer who came up to me. We had booked her on a Sunday at 9 in the morning, and she could be very acerbic. And we always tried to book important people early because we wanted people to come. So Susan, I don't know if I ever told you the story, but she came up to me on Saturday, said, I don't know about 9 in the morning on Sunday. Is anyone going to come? It threw me into a panic the whole night. Called everyone I knew. I didn't have to because literally in downtown Miami, here, Susan Sontag, this literary writer, we had about 600 people trying to squeeze into that auditorium at the time. It was really a heady, special, remarkable period where we were basically changing the viewpoint of what Miami was like to people in general. I mean, if you can imagine, I've tried to figure it out before we came, but I think we had somewhere close to 15,000 writers who have visited the Miami Book Fair. At least 15,000 writers. Those writers come in the early days, they go, what is this place, Miami? What is this thing called Art Deco? What is Little Havana? What's going on here? And they would go back to their hometowns and write these long articles about Miami, and this is before Miami Vice. It's before the models took over on South Beach. This is way before all of that. So I credit Eduardo and the Miami Book Fair with all of the great success Miami has had.
Well, I mean, Miami-Dade College and all this
It
is
doesn't matter which is that, the role that you played in all of this and others, because it was a team effort.
It was a lot
It was
of
a team effort. Everybody did. But at the beginning, we have to beg the publishers to come and exhibit their books and bring the authors. Now we have the opposite problem. Now they are begging us to have their authors at the fair, which is a good problem to have. And when you have the New York Times say that's the finest literary event in the nation, and you have the Los Angeles Times saying incredible things about the book fair, and then the other thing that happened is we start getting delegations from other states
cities.
that were sent to look at the book fair so they can do book fairs. So now we have book fairs in a lot of other cities in the United States.
The LA
As a matter of
Times
fact,
book
this
fair.
week in San Francisco,
Yeah, big book fair.
I met with Mitchell and Drew, the former
Mayor
mayor,
of New Orleans.
the former mayor of New Orleans, who I remember calling me one day and saying, do you mind if I send a delegation to see your incredible book fair? And I said, not only send them, we will host them and show them how to do it.
We had people they came from as far away as Scotland to come here, if you remember.
Yeah.
We've had them, and they've started it. Now the book fairs are now Tucson, Santa Fe, San Francisco, LA, New Orleans. These book fairs have just blossomed. And it is really something that so many of them saw what we were doing in Miami.
Yeah.
And I want to accentuate what Eduardo said. It was really a cast of thousands that put on the Miami Book Fair. And what was so impressive were the people who gave of their time, the university professors, all of the professors of Miami-Dade College would find themselves down at the book fair doing things to help the book fair go forward. They would be introducing authors. They'd be, managing lines. They'd be doing all kinds of stuff. But, it's hard for me because it's a part of who I am, the Miami Book Fair. I mean, I grew up with it. So it's hard to separate any other part of my life than with the Miami Book Fair. I don't know that, I think the growth of the bookstore and the Miami Book Fair go hand in hand. Everything that who I am, my whole identity, the whole love that I have for Miami is because of my work with the Miami Book Fair and what we do for the community in that sense as well.
And the impact that it has had on the cultural world in Miami, because not too long ago, Alberto Ibargüen, who was the president of the Knight Foundation, told me that when the people who were thinking about bringing Art Basel here talked to him, they told Alberto that the success of the book fair was what encouraged them to come to Miami, because they saw the great attendance of people and how people loved the fair, and how it really attracted so many people who were believers. And that's why they made the final decision to bring Art Basel to Miami. which I consider to be a great accomplishment because Art Basel has made a significant contribution to culture in Miami. Most people who go to the book fair and enjoy it, and there is something for everyone, because even the children's alley is a paradise for children. It's all about learning, but it's in a way that is festive for children. But most people do not realize what it takes to put the book fair. It's a year-round undertaking. We couldn't begin to pay for what it costs to put the book fair together. It's because of over 1,000 volunteers, from picking up the authors at the hotel to bring them to the campus, to go to their session, to the people who manage every single room. By the way, one of the big complaints that people have about the book fair is that sometimes they want to see 2 or 3 authors and they are scheduled at the same time. And they cannot see but one of them because they cannot be in 3 places at the same time. But we have no choice because we have so many authors that are, speaking at the same time, which presents a challenge. But it's thanks to the volunteers, students and faculty and workers and people from the community who really volunteer to do the many things. Just getting those books from a big warehouse room to the tents and put them in place. And at the beginning, we didn't have even tents. We prayed that it wouldn't rain.
Right, so picture this, one of the very first book fairs, might have been the first. We had tables where authors were just sitting there signing. At one table was a guy with his wife, and he was selling his postcards. It turns out that he was the guy who founded The Simpsons. It was before The Simpsons. And he was there with his wife selling these postcards called Life is Hell. And I remember that, Life is Hell and all that stuff. At another table was Martha Stewart, trying to get people to come to see her, right? So, I mean, it was, I think back, and I don't think that there were very few major cultural and literary figures of the last half of the 20th century who were not at the book fair.
Yeah.
There were very few. I mean, we had everyone from Saul Bellow to John Updike to Philip Roth was one who didn't come. But we had one after another who then started out at the book fair, and then they became these cultural figures. And some of the early programming we did, and some of the booths that were there, identified kinds of books that right now are present, where you're hearing people write about books, from African voices or voices from the Caribbean or other places that were basically in Miami in the 80s. We had writers that came from Mariel who presented, like Ronaldo Arenas, Mario Vargas Llosa came. I mean, when you think of all of the, Carlos Fuentes, Isabel Allende, and then the side things that we did through the book fair. Do you remember when you did the Hemisphere? What was that? When they were doing the Hemisphere conference? Here?
Well, at one time we had 5 Nobel Prize laureates
That's what I was going to
together
bring up.
on a stage.
We had
That was an incredible.
We booked every living Nobel Prize winning poet at the old Lincoln Theater. And people were scalping tickets. The tickets were only like $25, but people were scalping these tickets. And the people introducing them were young poets introducing their heroes. They're not so young anymore, but they were the ones doing it. I mean, but then also with Eduardo's encouragement, there were some wonderful ways that these authors mingled with one another. We had programs. I mean, I can't even begin. We were the early ones doing a after-hours club on Miami Beach. Remember that? The authors would come. I forgot what we called it. And then we did something one year in the Grove, at that club in the Grove. I mean, it was pretty wild. It was this great mixture of all, and I meet people in the literary world today, and some of them are just remembering, what's going on, and we reminisce about the time that there was a party at the Antoni House in Miami Beach, and the woman who wrote Sex and the City, the novelist, Candace Bushnell, took off all her clothes and jumped in the pool. That happened in the middle of the book. I mean, these things just float around of all the different interactions of what happened to the book fair. Not to mention having a bookstore now and having people coming up to me and go, you know, the first time I ever remember reading was when my grandmother took me to the Miami Book Fair, 40 years ago. And now they're coming in with their own children or their grandchildren. I sat for years on the panel for the Silver Knights in English, for the Miami Herald. And I can't tell you how many of the kids who came and they didn't know, I don't think they knew I was going to be the judge, but they wrote essays about how they were influenced by coming to the book fair and what it meant to them. I mean, we could spend hours and hours and hours telling stories.
Well, I think we should share some gossip. I think that's important because there are some memorable moments.
All right.
Remember the bottle of vodka on the table?
Oh, with what's his name, right? With Hunter Thompson. Wow. I have a funny story to tell you about that. So Hunter Thompson comes. We book Hunter Thompson for a Tuesday night. First of all, the book fair was not always a week. The book fair began as 2 days. It was Saturday and Sunday. But then we knew if it was Saturday and Sunday, we couldn't get school kids, so we made it Friday and Saturday to get the school kids. Then we expanded to a week. And so we had all big authors during the week. So we booked Hunter Thompson to come, the crazy Hunter Thompson. It was a few years before he died. And he came, and he didn't come on the Tuesday he was supposed to come. Instead, he came on Sunday. I don't know how that happened. And there was a guy who introduced him. Do you remember Ed, something or other, introduced him, who decided he would partake of the stuff that Hunter Thompson partook of. And he did this crazy introduction. Hunter Thompson you couldn't understand it because he was out of it. But he asked, does anyone in the audience have any wild turkey? And so 2 guys in the audience went out and got him a bottle. This is kind of an interesting story that goes on. So they got him a bottle of wild turkey, and he starts dousing himself with it. Remember that? He started pouring it all over himself. And then the next thing I know, these 2 guys had a fishtail Cadillac convertible, and all I see is Hunter's legs straight up in the back of it, and they just took him somewhere. Now, that very same year, Doris Kearns Goodwin was at the book, the historian, and her husband was Richard Goodwin. Now, this is again, before you could Google anything, I had no idea that they knew each other at all until I went up to Doris. I said, you're not going to believe what happened. We had Hunter Thompson, and she says, I know, he slept on our floor of the hotel. Apparently they knew each other from being journalists in D.C. You would never imagine that Hunter Thompson and Doris Kearns Goodwin would be this close, right? So, that kind of thing.
And some authors are very peculiar and they have specific demands and specific needs and this and that. And you have to cater to them because, they're important authors and you want the public to have access to them. The other thing that the book fair allows is people to be able to have dialogues, ask questions and get responses and all that, and people love that. And it's just something that has grown. The book fair now is a year-round event, really. The main event is in November, but there is hardly a month when we don't have 3, 4, 5 different authors, either on campus or here or at the church, or and I think that the Miami public has demonstrated tremendous interest in literature and people in books, and it says a lot about the sophistication of the city, and that's to me a great way to attract the right people to move to the city. Because that's the kind of thing that makes a city great, and we are pleased to see the results when very few people believed that it would happen. Very few people.
I'm thinking of some of the gossip that we're talking about, and this man he was there, directing traffic, and he would always be there at the fair. And one year, do you remember the Love Doctor, Leo Buscaglia? Does that name ring a bell, the Love Doctor? He was not so full of love all the time. And neither were the people who followed him. So we had booked him, and remember, this is before the internet, so we couldn't pre-sell tickets, there were no sales. We never knew exactly how many were gonna come, but we figured on how many were gonna come. We sort of figured out, and at that time, the college only had an auditorium. The one auditorium that sat, about 350, I think?
350.
350 people. So we knew Leo Buscaglia would be big, but he was really big. And so the library got filled really quickly. And if you know the main campus in that building one, where there's one set of escalators that go up, and then you're on the floor of the auditorium. I'm running around to all the different rooms, and I knew Leo's was going to be big, so I was going to go see where it is. There is a line of people trying to get up the escalators to break into the auditorium, screaming and yelling, and there's Eduardo standing at the top of the escalator trying to hold back the audience. Do you remember that? And they were calling everybody names, and it was the ugliest thing with the Love Doctor that ever existed. It was crazy stuff.
Now, we had challenges with some of the authors who had, for example, if they were scheduled for 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you have people lining up since 8 o'clock in the morning. When we had Barack Obama, we had blocks and blocks all over downtown, people waiting to get into the theater to see Barack Obama. The same was true with Garrison Keillor and so many
And
others
Rice as well.
that had incredible audiences who were great followings. And
Anne Rice was great. At one point we used the Baptist church next door.
Yeah.
Do you remember? And when it got really big, we would do an offsite at the Baptist church. So Anne Rice, we knew was going to be gigantic. I don't know what we were thinking, but we put Anne Rice in the Baptist church. And little did we know that some of the elders of the church would go to her event. And if you ever read Anne Rice, it's not, and the people who came were all dressed up, and all that. And I think we got a letter that said, going forward, we're going to have to read every speech that anyone makes.
no censorship.
Right. Eduardo would never censor, neither would any of us, so we never had it there. It was just this magical thing where you built it and everyone came, no matter there was always a room filled with authors. Very first day Barry came to town, I knew that he was popular. We booked him into that 2106, which only sat about 200 people, I think, or 210 or whatever it was. And in those days we had a microphone where you could say, so-and-so will be in room ba-ba-ba-ba at a certain time. Well, we said that, and literally the whole fair tried to empty into that room. And Dave wasn't living in Miami at the time. He had only done a few of these littler books. And I thought, this guy's got a future. And I can also say that the way publishers used the book fair was really interesting. I mean, some of the great editors in America and around the world would come to the book fair to discover writers, discover who was popular. There's a very famous editor named Sonny Mehta, who was a publisher at Alfred Knopf. And Sonny, I'm absolutely positive of it, discovered Carl Hyacin through the Miami Book Fair. He came, he saw Carl, and then Carl's first book, Tourist Season, after Tourist Season, it was the first one that Knopf did, became a wild bestseller after that as well. So, I don't know, we could go on, and I don't know if you have any additional questions.
You made my job so much easier.
No, but if I may add just one little thing. Let me tell you, because I think it's important. The book fair is not just about the big names.
Right.
The book fair is a source of opportunity for people who are just starting, people who want to be writers, people who have published their first book, and for the first time they have an audience. And that is so important, be able to cultivate the local authors, that many of them become very important. And we have plenty examples of that. But that, I think, is another of the functions that.
You know what I found? Somebody sent this to me. I'm gonna pass it around. I have all of them somewhere, but somebody sent, these are some fairgoers guides from the mid-1990s. So you can get a sense of, I'll just pass it around. And you can browse through it and see who were some of the authors were there. It's pretty interesting. This is almost 30 years ago almost now. And then I was also going to read this, which really, this was sort of something that somebody sent to me, and it really has so much meaning. This was from 1997, November 97. And I think they got it right, really. Like the Energizer Bunny, the Miami Book Fair International just keeps going and going and going. And it gets better and better and better. In this, it's 14th year. That's when we were 14 years old. South Florida's book lovers found quite a multicultural feast. With 270 authors, its greatest number and variety ever, 300 exhibitors, 900 volunteers, and some 300,000 folks attending. So much for South Florida's undeserved rap as a cultural wasteland, and for the notion that no one reads anymore. Credit goes to Miami-Dade Community College, particularly its president, Eduardo Padrón. He gathered a local group to start the fair on MDCC's Wolfson campus. And it goes on and on and on. So, you know, that was our 14th year. We're now in our 43rd year. So it's a lot to be proud of. It's the one thing in my life that I think I'm most proud of. And knowing him and learning from him has made it even that much more rich. So
Well, we have become brothers.
we really have.
Through the process, and that's
really.
to me a source of pride.
Dr. Padrón, what are you most proud of as it relates to the book fair?
So many things that would take the entire time. But frankly, what I said at the beginning, I think the book fair represents Miami at its best because it is something that everyone can have a sense of ownership, a sense of belonging, because it is culture at its best. And I always tell the students at the college, or used to, because I'm no longer there, but I used to, learning is not just what you get in the classroom. Learning is where you find opportunities to find the truth, to find the facts, and to be able to discern them, and to be able to, take advantage of the richness. One of the best quotes is when Barbara Bush came to the book fair, and she said, "The book fair is an embarrassment of riches." I've been using that phrase forever because I think it best exemplifies what the book fair is all about. And I think the book fair also gave impetus to a lot of other artistic movements in Miami, because people saw in the book fair and the ability, literature tends to be a very elitist exercise. Of all the arts, of all the cultural things, when you talk literature, I think it's reserved just for the philosophers, it's reserved for the brains and this and that. I think the book fair has taught that it is something that the entire public can identify with. And that's what I'm most proud of.
Sure, I have one more question for you. So both of you have been incredible inspirations for me my whole career. And you just became a grandfather a few weeks ago. Dr. Padrón's biggest pride is his grandson. What would be your advice to the next generation for people that want to build something special like you were able to accomplish with the book fair?
Personally, I feel it takes perseverance. If you believe in something, you can make it happen. And nothing important is easy. It takes a lot of hard work, but it takes perseverance, it takes believing, it takes purpose, it takes uh, all those things that make people and things successful. And if we would have believed, like, the former president of the college, whom I loved and was a mentor to me, he himself told me that go ahead and do it, but you're wasting your time. And the fact of the matter is that if I had listened to most of the people who told me you're wasting your time, we would not have a book fair. And the same with you, right?
It's absolutely the
same
same.
with you.
And I would say also, just on top of all of that, just make sure that when you're about to do something, you put together people who are very like-minded and who you trust and who have the same kind of, I believe, I'm in this business out of a sense of passion. And, I only want to play with people who play well together. I don't need all that kind of, extra stuff that goes on sometimes when you do something. So you find those people who believe in what you're going to do as well, and you push forward, I think.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would say is that if you really think of all the important things that have happened in Miami until today, with a few exceptions, most of them have happened in spite of the politicians. And that's important. And it's people power. It is people wanting to do the right thing. And people who are true believers who are able to develop the strength to make it happen. And that's fine, because I remember at the beginning we wouldn't get any attention from the politicians. They wish us well and this and that, but we were. However, when we brought George W. Bush and we brought all the big names, they all wanted tickets, they all wanted to sit in the front seat and all that. And that was the opportunity to say, well, we really need support. But I think it's an example of the power of people. And we live in different times today in this country, and challenges that, again, are very difficult.
And speaking to that, can I just say one really important thing, which I'm very proud of in terms of the book fair and the things we do. Miami's always been challenging from the very beginning. It's been very challenging to bring authors in and not get criticized by one group or another because you're bringing that author in. But from the very beginning, from the very first author we brought in, we have never, ever been pressured. We've been pressured, but we've never given in to that pressure because of this gentleman and following his lead in terms of the freedom to read, which is so important, the freedom of expression. And that is something that I'm most proud of, that we've been able to maintain even in this difficult time, in this difficult state. We are trying to not have to toe the line when it comes to trying to silence voices. And I mean, we've been through a lot of times. I mean, the Dolores Prida stuff and
Jane
Fonda when she came. That's right. Yeah, we were through a lot. We've been through a lot
Not
of
only
stuff.
with the authors, but the booksellers. There were booksellers that were selling
Marxist stuff.
or booksellers that specialize in newspapers from Cuba,
Right.
Grandma and other papers. And there was a lady who came and started screaming that they shouldn't be there, you should kick them out. And one of the volunteers, two of the volunteers that were serving that tent were employees of Barnett Bank. And she went and called the chairman of Barnett Bank to tell him that these two employees of yours are allowing communist papers being distributed and sold at the book fair. And the chairman called me and said, what is going on? And I said, America at its best.
That is great.
And I said to him, no one is more anti-communist than I am. No one, will ever read that kind of piece of nothing. But people have the right to exhibit them. People have the right to buy them if they want to. And we have the same problem with the Muslim, remember that display with Muslim literature and things like that.
Right.
And I think it has been a very good example for young people and the not so young too.
I agree.
That the book fair is a place that represents the best values of America.
Most definitely.
Another round of applause. Let's open up some questions.
Boy, this is so rich. So I have two anecdotes and I have a question. The first one is, Mitch, you taught at Miami Silver. So your co-worker, Miss Siemens,
Yes.
was introduced to the book fair when I first migrated with him.
What year did you graduate?
1988. So,
We just missed each other.
yes.
I was there 89.
She introduced me to the book fair. And
Oh, no, you're young. I was there in 79. You really missed each other.
But she introduced me to the book fair in 1986. And then the second anecdote is, Dr. Padrón, you're responsible for introducing me to Barack Obama before he was a president. He came out of a taxi to come to the college at the time. So if you go to my Instagram to get, coincidentally, there's a picture with me and him when we first met in your office. The question that I have for you is, if you were to start a book fair today, in these times, in the Miami of today, would you start it the same way, or what would you do differently?
Well, you always learn from your experience, and you try not to repeat mistakes. And we made some mistakes, not too many, but we made some mistakes. And I think that's what you need to do. You need to learn from your mistakes and try to do it better all the time. I believe that the book fair is, with the things that are going on today, when a sociology course is taken out of the curriculum because we shouldn't teach sociology, and I could go on and on with the things that are going on. So far, I'm not there anymore, so I don't know the things that may be happening. But we stand on principle, and we stay true to the values that we have learned in this country and the things that matter. And I will not allow, as long as I am in charge, any pressure that would make us take books out of the shelves, that would not allow certain authors to speak because of who they are. We have been a good example of that because we have brought from the political arena, I think we haven't missed any of the big names. You take the Bush family, the father, the son, the wife, both Laura and Barbara, the daughters, Jana and the other one, the sister, Donna Bush, they all have been there, and they are Republicans. We had Barack, we had Michelle, we had Chelsea Clinton, we had, I could go on and on and on, and we had most of the Secretary of States, we had Madeleine Albright, we had Condoleezza Rice.
We had Dick Cheney when he wasn't so
We
popular.
have Dick Cheney, all of them, but that's America. I mean, the ability for people, regardless of how they think and their philosophy and the way they think, to be able to express themselves and with respect, listen to them, and if you want to disagree, that's also perfect, no problem, but to be able to censor people just because of what they believe is not acceptable. And as long as the book fair remains that way, and it's difficult nowadays to keep it that way, trust me. But we have to, and we will have to fight to make sure that book fair continues to stay on principle.
And the pledge I can give that as long as I'm there, I will not stay there if that changes. I will not allow that to happen. And so far it has not happened, which is really great. I mean, we've never been asked to have an author that we've canceled or anything like that, nor would we ever. It's first of all, it would be the end of the book fair if we ever did that. Really, the book fair would die if that ever happened.
Well, part of the reason why it hasn't happened is the powers that be know what they will find if they try to.
They try to fool around.
Yeah.
Sina?
I would just like to say I have such deep admiration for Dr. Padrón. And having watched him throughout the years in so many different aspects of his career and the formation of Miami-Dade College and the book fair and so many other initiatives, what I see in Dr. Padrón is a love of art and culture, a tremendous love. And I would like to ask you, where does that come from? When did it begin? And because I think that art is responsible for your ability to have done so many things.
I love the arts in all of its forms, and I just wish I knew more about art because there is a lot that I haven't had a chance to really get deep into that. But I feel that arts, a city, a country without art cannot reach its full potential. I feel that art makes a big difference in our formation as individuals, as human beings, make us more sensitive, make us more empathetic with other people, and it adds color, it adds a lot of factors that make life more pleasant. And it's something that allowed all people to have a way of expressing themselves, different ways of expressing your thoughts and your ideas and so forth and so on. And I would like to say that in that regard, Miami-Dade College has fulfilled its mission, because the arts at Miami-Dade College play a very, very, very important role, not just with literature and the book fair, but in many other respects. We have great people who are very inspiring, and I learn a lot from them. I love to go and sit on a professor's class and learn something different all the time when I have a chance, which is not always often. But yes, the arts have played a very important role in my life, and I just feel that it's our duty to make it available to everyone. And that's what the book fair does. It opens the eyes. Nothing more beautiful. There's a child in me who loves balloons and parades. I really do. I love to see parades. And sometimes in my own family, they do not believe that at my age, I love to watch parades and I love balloons. Okay? You want to make me happy? Give me a balloon. And I love it. But the fact of the matter is that at the beginning of the book fair, we had parades, and we had school bands, and we had the fire truck, and we had students with banners and different groups of students, different clubs, parade all the way on 2nd Avenue, all the way to Flagler, back and take on 5th Street. Close the streets, that was another issue. Getting the city to close the streets was a major undertaking. But we finally did, and every year then we still keep closing the streets and causing chaos in terms of the traffic and all that. But it's a good problem to have, because you are able to display, and the fair has grown. The other thing that made the fair, I don't want to forget this, the other thing, the fair took so much interest nationally and internationally that we had for years PBS from Detroit for 3 consecutive days, the last 3 days of the fair. They were from early morning to evening, broadcasting the fair live to the whole nation.
C-SPAN does that too.
Who's that?
The C-SPAN.
C-SPAN, yeah. That took the book fair to the whole nation. And you will not believe how many people come to the book fair from other places because the author that is going to be talking on Sunday is the author that he or she is writing a dissertation about for her PhD. Or people that come from either Panama or Buenos Aires or from different places because of the authors that are going to be at the fair that otherwise they wouldn't have a chance to see face to face. So the other thing that we noticed is that since the book fair started having the public and all that, a lot of the businesses around the college began to flourish. And they love the book fair because that's how the things began to change. And the rest is history. Now there is no more land left. Now
There was one little piece.
Don't get me going. And now we don't have that block anymore, which, by the way, among the plans, we have some beautiful designs for that block. But among that was a convention center, basically to be able to house the book fair, to move the New World School of the Arts.
Oh, I bet hell like you use it.
That they deserve, the New World School of the Arts, which is a jewel.
It's not over yet, right?
No?
To be placed there and so many other things, mostly for the arts. And
I can't listen to that.
so anyway,
Judith?
So I do want to express deep gratitude to both of you because, I mean, what you have done here as someone who did not grow up in Miami and came here thinking we would be here for, my husband and I moved here, thought, no, we'll be here a year or two. We didn't think there was anything intellectual going on here, to be honest. And we right away found the book fair. Like, first year we were here, thanks to my mom who came and said, let's go. And ever since, it's just been a highlight for our family. It's been something that our children love, and it's been a part of why my children love to read. So thank you. And also, I can't even express deeply enough to you how much I really do believe, even before this session, that it's something that has changed the culture of Miami. And we can't, there's no way to express the gratitude for that. And I'm just curious, is there anything new we could look forward to, or anything, any spoilers, or any authors, or coming gossip, or anything you might possibly be able to share?
People always ask that. They go, what's new at the book fair?
Yeah.
And the cool thing about the book fair is it's new every year because of the different authors that are coming. And this year there's an amazing lineup. We haven't confirmed it, but there's some amazing books coming out in the fall. Some great fiction that you didn't see last year, but some amazing. Everyone from Colson Whitehead to Min Jin Lee is coming out with a new book, who did Pachinko. So there's a lot of good stuff that we hope will be there this year as well.
So we learned about people power, trust, and how dangerous two silver medallions can be when they come together. But this is just the beginning. We're going to be curating a lot more amazing programming to get the Pillar Circle together. So thank you for being here. This meant so much to me.
And also, everyone stay for a little while if you want. There is food and drink. You're welcome to stay. Thank you.